Hey guys, this is Miss Moore, and we're going to be reading Chapter 1 from Unit 2, The Rise of Early American Civilizations. Now, the difference between my reading and if you go to the hub is I'm going to be asking questions while I read, and these questions may help you down the road. So if you choose to listen to me, that's fine, or if you'd rather go to the hub and listen through Amplify, that is also fine. All right, let's get started. All right, Chapter 1, The Big Question. The big question. Now, the big question is something that we need to pay attention to because I'm going to ask that you answer it at the end of this chapter. So, here's the big question. What were the key geographic features of the region in which the Maya, Aztec, and Inca civilizations developed? One more time, here's the big question. What were the key geographic features of the regions in which the Maya, Aztec, and Inca civilizations developed? The rise of early American civilizations. Our understanding of history of let's start all over again. Our understanding of the history of humans living and working together begins in Africa more than 1,000,000 years ago. Over time, humans began to migrate and eventually inhabited 6 continents: Africa, Asia, Europe, Australia, and the 2 Americas. Now, we have a map of what is the paths many inhabitants took when they started to become mobile or nomadic, as some would say. And many early cultures, civilizations did, in fact, start in Africa. Some of the oldest hominids, which are early humans, are found in areas of Africa. So, as you can see, following the map, if you look, the migration routes show that early humans. Now, if you want to, you can use your finger and follow along. Now, the migrations of early humans throughout the Americas. The arrows show that the humans moved from Africa, which is right here. Okay. Africa. Okay. Then they moved into parts of Europe, which is up here, and parts of Asia. Now, how did they get from all the way to Europe to North America? Well, that's because many hypothesize that long ago these continents all were meshed together in what they call Pangea. Now, Pangea is when all the continents were formed together, and there was a land bridge that allowed people to move from the European continents over to the northern part of the Western civilization. So that's what many people think. And then you have the Americas. We have North America and South America. So let's erase this real quick. Now, as you can see, as they are moving, some people also moved down to Australia. Now, these were mostly inhabitants that are still have families there today. And as you can see in the map, once they reached the North American area, they moved south all the way to the southern tip of South America. Now, for many thousands of years, early hunter-gatherers traveled from place to place. They fished, hunted animals, and gathered wild plants. Between 12,000 and 5,000 BCE, some groups of people established more permanent villages. Often these village-based societies relied on farming, raising their own crops for food. Some learned to domesticate animals. Over time, animals were used for more than just food in some regions. They helped people plow and fertilize the soil. They supplied milk and wool for their clothes. Now, as we're reading, remember the big question, geographic features. Now, remember, geographic features are characteristics of the Earth's surface at certain places. For example, mountains, rivers, valleys. Geographic features also include the types of plants and animals that were in these places. So, key geographic features. Now, think about this. Why do you think humans chose to migrate south through the Americas? Think about wintertime up north. Think about why would you think they would do that? Well, one reason may be because of the weather. They wanted a warmer climate. Or they may have been looking for natural resources that ran out up north. They also may have been looking for water because water was the number one need for a civilization. Now, let's talk about the word domesticate. It said that some learned to domesticate animals. What do you think that means, to domesticate? Well, to domesticate means to train them, basically, to make them to where they're useful to humans. Now, animals were used just for more than food in some regions. This gives you an example that, hey, they use this for not just food, and it tells you that it helped them plow and fertilize the soil. So, domesticated means that they put them to use in other fashions other than food. As people settled down on farms, their lives changed. People learned to irrigate fields. They developed ways to store food. Populations grew. Between 4000 and 2000 BCE, towns and villages in various places developed into cities. People constructed buildings and worshipped gods. They made pottery and wove cloth. The city dwellers chose leaders and developed laws. Some people governed and others served. Civilization was born. Civilization developed from Africa to the Americas. The early civilizations arose in fertile river valleys in Africa and Asia. These civilizations flourished along the banks of the Nile, the Indus, the Yellow, Tigris, and the Euphrates rivers. By 1000 BCE, new civilizations arose in the Americas. These early American civilizations are called pre Columbian civilizations. This is because they developed long before Christopher Columbus's first voyage to America in 1492. These three of these pre-Columbian civilizations were the Maya, the Aztec, and the Inca. All right, now let's go back up to the first paragraph. What do you think some key features of what a civilization would be? Some key features, well, that involves people who work together. They irrigated the fields. That means they brought water to it. The populations grew. And when these populations grew, cities started. People constructed buildings and they started worshiping gods. They also started making things to sell. And one of the most important things that people started choosing leaders and they started making laws. Laws were very important to society, just like they are today. Now, down here, the author suggests that the Maya, Inca, and Aztecs are referred to as pre Columbian. What do they mean by pre Columbian? When the author says pre Columbian, she's referring to the fact that these civilizations developed long before Christopher Columbus's exploration started from Spain. Another thing, why do you think many civilizations started to flourish around rivers? Why do you think it is very important or was important for civilizations to develop around rivers? Now, back on the thing, it says they flourished along the banks of the Nile, which was part of Africa, the Indus River, which was part of India, the Yellow, which is part of Asia, the Tigris and Euphrates, which is part of the Middle East. These areas all had civilizations that thrived once they started their communities there. Why do you think? Think about water. Water is one of the most essential things in civilization. The rivers, they provided fertile soil because of the nutrients coming from the water. The crops needed the water. Irrigation was very important. And also, they needed drinking water. Another important thing, water is a source of transportation to get from point A to point B. Now, Mesoamerica. The Maya and Aztec. Mesoamerica, or Middle America, was home to the Maya and the Aztec civilizations. These regions lie north of the equator in an area called the tropics. It includes portion of present-day Mexico in North America and part of Central America. It occupies much of the isthmus that joins the continents of North and South America. The present Central American countries of Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and northern Costa Rica are all part of Mesoamerica. Mesoamerica has a very diverse landscape, including dry coastal deserts and wet inland rainforests. So, as you can see right here, you have North America, which Mexico is part of. Then you have Central America. All these areas are in Central America. Now, the Yucatan Peninsula is surrounded by water on three sides. It lies between the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea and was home to many Maya. Warm, humid rainforests cover the southern part of the peninsula. Its lush vegetation supports animals such as jaguars, snakes, bats, monkeys, toucans, and quasibirds. The northern part of the Yukon is drier and has no rivers, only lakes and swamps. The Yucatans, thousands of deep cenotes supplies fresh water to the area. Water needed in order for settlements to develop. Maya descendants, or their family members, are still there, living alongside the ruins of the ancient civilizations. Now, what key geographic feature of the Yucatan Peninsula, which was made home to many Maya? Well, think about it. Where's it located? What surrounds it? Is it dry or wet? What water sources do you have? And where can they get their water from? Those are all key geographic features for the Yucatan Peninsula. I cannot say that word today, I'm sorry. The Aztecs created a magnificent empire with cities under one central government. This empire began north of the Yucatan Peninsula in the Valley of Mexico and extended across much of central Mexico. Surrounded by mountains and volcanoes, it was land full of wildlife. The wildlife is still there, but only ruins of pyramids mark the landscape with the remains of the Aztec civilization. Now, what was the area of the Aztecs like? Think about it. Where is it located? Explain the land. South America, the Inca. The Inca civilization began high in the Andes Mountains of present-day Peru. It grew to include parts of Ecuador, Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. The landscape and climate vary greatly across its enormous stretch of land. Deserts and warm valley lie beneath frigid snow-capped peaks. Llamas and alpaca are native to the mountain areas. These long-necked animals were domesticated to carry heavy loads and provide wool. Cougars and chinchillas also share the habitat with a wide variety of birds, amphibians, and fish. Now remember, what key geographic features could explain the Inca, their area? Clues to past civilizations. Archaeologists have discovered much of what we know. I'm sorry, I want to turn the page. Archaeologists have discovered much of what we know about the Maya, the Aztecs, and the Inca. Archaeologists study the remains of past civilizations. They survey the land where the ancient people lived, test the soil, take photographs. They also map out areas to excavate or dig for artifacts. Archaeologists use shovels, scoops, brushes, sieves to search for evidence of past human activity. Flake stones, ceramic shards, bones, and textiles all tell a story. Spanish letters and records also provide information about early American civilizations. Why were the Spanish in Americas? Why were they? Starting about 500 years ago, they came in search of riches. They were looking for gold, silver, spices, and silks, adventure, and conquest. Now, what does the author mean when we look up here? And it says flake stones, ceramic shards, bones, and textiles tell a story. What do they tell? It's not like it's a book. Well, see, this is all evidence or proof that tells a story about human activity in the past. Because ceramics and textiles were there, it means they were made by people. Flaked stone and bones are evidence of activity in which people were engaged in. You have proof of a civilization, all with some little pieces of dust, shards, and bones. Spanish conquest in America. Hernán Cortés and Francisco Pizarro, distant cousins, were two early Spanish explorers. So you have now these are not real photographs. Remember, these are portraits. So we have two distant cousins that were all early Spanish explorers. They sailed on separate expeditions from Spain to the Americas in early 1500s. The Spanish conquistadors, or conquerors, were both interested in more than riches. They wanted to establish colonies for the Spanish king. They brought with them advanced weapons, new animals, and unfortunately, devastating European diseases. Cortés conquered and took control of the Aztec Empire in present day Mexico. Pizarro conquered the Inca in the present day Peru. The Spaniards imposed their language and religion on the native people. The Spanish wrote about their early experiences in the Americas. As you explore these chapters, you will learn about the history of these three pre Columbian civilizations: the Maya, the Aztec, and the Inca. Now, based on the information in this little section, what factors may have contributed to the decline of the Aztec and Inca empires? What could possibly have led to the decline? Now, the decline means where they went away. Well, if you look right here, when the Spanish conquistadors came, they came with not only advanced weapons, but they also come with diseases that these pre-Columbian civilizations had no contact with. So as soon as they came in contact with these diseases, they became sick because they didn't have what we know as an immunity to them. So a lot of these pre-Columbian civilizations declined because of it. Now, and then of course the advanced weaponry. So this is in the very corner. You can see a Spanish conquistador sought riches such as gold that they used in the Aztec pendants. So a lot of people, when they came to visit the first time, when they went back to Spain and other places, they made these stories of how these empires had gold, lots and lots of gold. So that gained the interest of many people, which caused these individuals to go on their expeditions to find this gold. Now, this is the first chapter. And once you finish reading this chapter, you need to go ahead and do the assignments. So, remember the big question: what were the key geographic features of the regions in the Maya, Aztec, and Inca civilizations developed?